You're still watching Newsnight. We're still talking about the Electoral Amendment Bill and the position taken by the National Assembly. We're now joined by Idayat Hassan, Director of the Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for
I wonder if you're happy about the events, the way they've turned out today at the National Assembly with the issue of Electoral, Act Amendment Bill, especially with the e-transmission the drama that surrounded all of that. Not just the fact that they voted no, predominantly, but that it actually, was across party lines.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's sad, but it's also interesting, and it tells us that nothing has really changed so far. It has again reaffirmed the fact that the act of election or Electoral Act amendment or constitution making in Nigeria is a captured process where at every point in time, the actors only think in terms of their own interest, not in terms of the interest of the populace. That's one. Then the second issue is also the fact that it went into almost a brawl, both at the House of Rep and also what actually happened at the Senate, tells us that instead of progressing when it comes to the culture of politics, we are not yet there.
Wouldn't you call it democracy playing out?
I don't think that's how democracy actually plays out. We see democracy plays out in other climes. We see other climes even get to...
take for example, during the American impeachment, you'd have expected that considering what Trump did, he would have been impeached, but you could see that the Republicans didn't want to vote him out, didn't want to vote for him to be impeached. So that's why I asked you, isn't that really democracy playing out and parties just being what they're called to be?
I think that in spite of the polarization in the US at that point in time, we still also saw Republicans who voted against.
One or two.
Yeah.
It happened here too. One or two voted here.
One of two voted, but you did not see anybody glorifying or trying to eat each other, I think, at that point in time. And while democracy will continue to grow, I also continue to argue that our parliament also have got some of the best of brains. So we can't say that we are not there. We can't say that as Nigerians we are not intellectuals. Even people who are not so well read are very, very enlightened sets of people, especially politically. When you go to the villages and you listen to the analysis that comes from the mouth of an unlettered person, then you will really understand that politics is just like food that we do eat here.
So what do you make of the reasons given by the APC for voting no to e-transmission of results?
I think they're completely untenable, and they are attuned with present-day reality. One thing people are not factoring in is that either we like it or not, the process is already digitized. So you look at the voter registration process. You look at the process where even political parties now upload their nomination forms. Observers also have to apply online. INEC has a website. All these are cyber infrastructures that can actually be tampered with. Even the voters register is actually online. Anything that comes online can be tampered with aside this electronic transmission of results.
Yeah, but will it not be further complicated? I mean, with a 43% or so internet penetration in the country, won't some people be disenfranchised?
No, I don't actually agree to that.
Be concerned about?
Like we know, for instance, INEC trialed what is called the result viewing platform, which also gives a trail of the results. And by the Ondo State elections, in the first 7 hours, they've been able to upload up to 70%. So if you see our post-election analysis, we showed what it was. And that was different because in previous elections, people will say, it's on the water, 48 hours, result will not come to the collation center. They were able to do that. So talking about internet penetration as examples or not, or as reasons, I think are not genuine. Again, what you should note is that when we are making laws, we have to be progressive. The fact that it is written into the law does not mean that it has to be directly applied at that point in time, because in other places there are rooms for contingency plan. And instead of coming by this kind of provision where they are now subjecting an independent body to another body, particularly who is, of course, has got its interest, and of course the NCC, another federal body, what could easily have just been done, or what would even have been done by INEC, is that at every point in time, there will be an interagency platform to actually deal with this issue.
Let me come in there. Professor Tahiru Jiga, the former INEC chairman, says both electronic voting and transmission should go hand in hand. He calls it a package, and that's what it is. Anything otherwise, he says it's counterproductive, but then questions will be asked. He was the INEC chairman. Why did he not do that then? He could have set the pace.
I think it was also one of the amendments with diaspora voting that came up ahead during the 2015 Electoral Act amendment process and did not actually scale through. Then the space of that 5 years until date, you will also note that infrastructures are more developed, and importantly, politics is also grown very nasty and brutish. So take example of the 2019 elections, for instance. Our own work in the presidential elections was not just to monitor the elections. We decided to do what? We decided to go in depth and look at what the collation process actually looks like in the 8,809 ward collation centers, because we wanted to bring in evidence that we can adduce at times like this. What did we see? Interference by security forces, interference by political talks, logistic challenges are still part of it, even common arithmetical error, aside from even interferences of some of these officials. So when you bring in process, it's at incremental level. We are thinking of what do we do to actually impose citizens' trust
what do you do?
in
What
the
do you
system.
do to what she raised, which the senators raised about coverage, which is what that is? It's conditional that for now, let there be a determination of what the coverage is, so some people will not be disenfranchised. I mean, could you really fault that? Can you really fault
I think it should not have come by way of an insertion in the Electoral Act.
Okay.
And that is what, in places where they have actually done electronic transmission of result or voting, they have an interagency platform to actually deal with this. And by the time they come back and see that they cannot cover everywhere, even INEC will be foolhardy for INEC to actually insist and say that we are going to use this process.
So what do you think all of this now means for
I think it comes to the politics
Nigeria's
of it.
Democracy? Are we making progress?
We are not making progress.
You just described the whole process as being captured process. Do you think the powers of INEC is being watered down? If that's the case, what then? What would you say is the way forward?
I think it's just an attempt to actually water down the powers of INEC, but we also know that it's an impossibility. It's a nullity in itself, because this is coming by way, INEC is listed in the Constitution. There are several constitutional provisions to it. By virtue of the name itself, there is independence. We also know of best practices. So even if this actually goes to court, it cannot actually stand. So that proposed the proposed amendment will not stand.
What will civil society like yours be doing then?
I think that really for us, we are already so determined that at every point in time, we should actually not waste money in terms of amending Electoral Act and Constitution process. That this is something that could actually be put there, and when the time is right,
to be used,
it will be actually used.
All right, we'll leave it there. Idayat Hassan, Director, the Center for Democracy and Development. Glad to have you here.